Welcome to UNCAGED. Today we're speaking with Jonathan Leaf. Jonathan is a Senior Vice President of Small Business Sales at RingCentral. It's an organization helping SMBs improve their ability to streamline workflows, increase meeting efficiency, and other productivity benefits through global enterprise cloud communications, video meetings, collaboration, and contact centers. We'll go through all of that. Certainly, everyone's trying to figure out ways to improve the way we work and workflows right now. And it's certainly gone through a dramatic change over the last couple of years. So I'm excited to hear what's the latest at RingCentral. But before we go there, Jonathan, tell me a little bit about you and your career.
Yeah, I'd love to. Well, Ben, thanks for the opportunity. Great to be here. Like you said, Jonathan Leaf, I lead small business sales for RingCentral globally, based in Denver, Colorado, as of a year ago. Prior to Denver, I spent many years in Chicago, born and raised in Minneapolis, Minnesota, but have been kind of all over the place as a result of my career. Married, 4-year-old boy named Waylon who loves Colorado. I got into the workforce in 2000. So graduated from the University of Montana in 2000. And that was a really interesting time in the job market. Like, companies were thriving. The dot-com boom was well underway. And kind of by luck, I ended up in tech, to be quite frank with you. And in these 24 years, which pains me to even say, I've only worked for 3 organizations. The first of which I worked for 18 years. And I couldn't have asked for a better experience. This was a company that took me on when I was young, allowed for me to experience probably 8 or 9 different jobs in 4 different cities, and quite frankly saw potential in me that I may not have at the time seen in myself. So started as an individual contributor, worked through sales leadership roles, ultimately led a sales operation organization, a marketing organization, call center-like organizations across the globe, and then a big part of the U.S. enterprise sales operation. So an incredible experience that had me there for 18 years, and then ventured off into Amazon and a subsidiary named Amazon Web Services, which is all can probably appreciate a booming market and booming market opportunity with the public cloud being what it is, and Amazon pioneering that space in many ways. So I had a 4-year run there where I was able to essentially build their central U.S. sales operation. So an incredible opportunity to build something from the ground up in a company growing as quickly as AWS is and has been. And now at RingCentral for the trailing year and a half. And I support what we call, as I said earlier, our small business customers, but that represents probably 90% plus of the company's customer base. So think of about 400,000 customers that my team supports, of which I have 500 or so individuals doing exactly that. So a global team that I have the honor to lead in a very dynamic, fast-growing space in unified communications and collaboration.
Yeah. So, let's go through that a little bit. I want to make sure that our listeners understand what RingCentral does and really how it works with small businesses. So tell us a little bit more, just the kind of lay of the land at RingCentral.
Yeah. So, I like to think companies are really eager to do 2 things at all times. One is to improve the experience they have with their customers. So when you engage with a company, the experience that you get as a consumer or as a company, and to improve the experience of your employees. And if you think about that, in the trailing 5 years, that's been kind of put on its head. Like, the entirety of corporate America, of our workforce, has learned to work differently. And that's front and center to what RingCentral does. So when you think about what our value is to customers and what we do for our customers, we ultimately make them more collaborative, better integrated. We do that through a number of different cloud technologies, of which include phone, so how you interact over phone in the cloud, messaging, so when you sit down at your desk and you're literally instant messaging with whether it's coworkers or customers or external individuals, on through to video. And when I think about like the interaction we're having right now, Ben, we're nowhere close to one another, but it's like we're together. And this is the exact technology that RingCentral brings to life. when you think then about how your people serve your customers, the interaction that they have with those customers is paramount. And I
Mhm.
have 400,000 customers. So we provide technologies that allow for us to engage those 400,000 customer plus with how they want to be engaged, whether it be via digital channels like social, via phone, but ensuring that we get the right people on the phone or in any means necessary with the right customer in the way they want to interact to solve that customer issue. And that's more in the contact center space, which
Right.
is going down a path of artificial intelligence, AI, we hear all the time, to improve just that customer experience and how customers are engaged.
So, I mean, it's a really interesting space. And a couple of years ago, I was on a board of a company that owned a ton of call centers. And I remember that we were at the time trying to spin off the call centers. And the biggest buyers were actually AI companies because they wanted the data so that they could feed into the models and learn and train. But when you look out at the landscape right now, Jonathan, and you're focused on the small business space, what are those small business customers focused on? And of all the things that you guys do, what's the kind of key thing right now for them?
I mean, if you just look at small businesses in general, like we need to enable them to serve their customers, plain and simple. Like, my perspective, man, I don't think small business customers are in the business of running IT, running communications, ensuring that they collaborate well. Like,
Mm,
they want things that are simplistic, that drive efficiencies, that improve engagement of their customers. And like I said earlier, makes the lives of their employees easier, especially
yeah,
in today's hybrid world, right? Like
yeah,
small businesses have a profound advantage to maybe where they were pre-pandemic because they have access to talent they maybe haven't historically had, right? Like when you think about tech and you think about San Francisco, it's always been kind of the epicenter. Well, a lot of tech savvy individuals that have worked for Silicon Valley like companies now work in other markets. And small businesses now have access to some of that talent as a result of the technology that allows for these individuals to work anywhere. So when I think about what's priority for them, well, it's how do you attract and retain great talent? A lot of that can be done through technology. How do you focus on your customers and on making the experience of your employees wonderful? Well, that's all about the technology, and it's all about technology that simplifies your day to day and takes you out of the business of having to run it and manage it. And the last thing I'll say is I just don't think small businesses want to work with a lot of different partners. Like
hmm
they really need to focus on consolidation. They really need to focus on working with the vital few that allow for their business to scale as quickly as possible. And I think we're kind of at the center of much of that when you think about how employees engage in work, depending upon where they are, and simplifying the experience of their customers and of their employees.
Yeah, I love the way you phrase that. I mean, I think about small businesses a lot in that SMB space in general because generally speaking, I would say I feel like it's an incredibly important part of our economy that we don't talk about enough. We
Totally.
don't, and we don't really think about how they're driving our economy. And so you're absolutely right. When we work with SMBs ourselves, these are the things they care about. They don't really love technology for the sake of technology. They want it to work and make their lives easier and streamline things. So I think you nailed it right there. But Jonathan, let me change gears a little bit. You've had an incredible career, really, at I'd say some of the key technology intersections of our world. What kind of drives you, and where's that passion come from for this space?
I don't know if I have a passion for any one space. I do think I'm a believer in technology. I'll just say that, man, right out of the gate. Like I think it can be a real catalyst for good. And there's a lot of time and energy spent on how can it disrupt in a negative way what so many individuals and people do for businesses today. But I think it's complementary, and I think it
Mm-hmm.
honestly um, benefits, augments so much of what we're already doing. It makes the work more efficient, the work more interesting. So I don't know if there's any one thing or segment or specific technology that I get most excited about. I'm a believer in tech for the cause of good.
Mm-hmm.
Um, my motivation comes from leading change. And my motivation comes from leading people and seeing companies and organizations thrive.
Yeah.
So I look at myself as less a technologist and more as a advocate, as more of a accelerant to helping people accomplish things that they or the organization didn't know it could. And I think
And
there's just ingredient inside that it's my role as a leader to bring to life to enable that in happening. That's my motivation.
yeah, yeah, I like that. And, I looked at your background and I think that it would be great to hear your perspective on how leading teams has shifted throughout your career. I mean,
Yeah.
I see now you're leading quite a large global team in this space, and certainly you've managed teams at Amazon and other places before. So tell me a little bit about how leadership has shifted over your career.
I mean, I've seen it. It's interesting. It's such a timely question, man, because like 2023 for a lot of people is a very different year than any other year they've been a part of.
Yeah,
Like you and I can relate to like what happened in '07, in '08, in '09, and just like the change the country went through with the Great
yeah,
Recession and what that meant for work and what that ultimately meant for leadership.
yeah,
And then there's the other end of the spectrum, which is you go into a company like AWS, which can't grow fast enough. I mean, it literally is just like customers know they need to get to the cloud, and you're leading in a very different environment where it's growing at all costs. You have investment for days to go make that happen, and everyone's succeeding. Like everyone's
yeah,
doing very, very well just based on the compelling event that is that public cloud and just based on the market economics at the time. Well, now you fast forward to a year like 23, and you look at tech as an example. I'll just use tech because that's the world I live in. The world has changed.
yeah,
Like the Feds are obviously intentionally trying to tame inflation, and you can't blame them. But when the cost of capital changes the way it has, and you're in a market like I am in technology, like that is a dramatic change from the standpoint of what Wall Street, what the world, what your investors expect of these organizations. It's not growth at all costs. It's
yeah,
profitability, it's free cash flow, and the access to capital is far, far less. And the market has constricted as a result, right? Like every dollar matters. Every dollar is probably scrutinized more than it's ever been. So, what does this mean for leadership? Well, for me currently, it means leading a team that hasn't had to maybe deal with a ton of adversity historically. RingCentral grew to be a $2 billion company in 8 years. It was just like, we can do no wrong.
yeah,
It's helping lead a team that hasn't been faced with adversity. It's helping lead a team and an organization that needs to change to evolving market dynamics. What got us here in our go-to-market strategy historically isn't what our go-forward strategy needs to be to continue to win. And
yeah,
the final point I'll make is like customers have options. No matter what market you're in, no matter what you do, they have options. And the differentiation now for us is less about maybe the technology, and it's more about the experience we provide those customers, which goes back to your workforce, how engaged your workforce is and how excited they are to really serve their customers. So it's trying to differentiate through customer experience as much as it is anything else. So lots of change and change management, which can be super exciting. But at the same time, it's hard.
yeah. No, I think it's a really good description. It has been a roller coaster ride. And you're absolutely right. It does seem like, I had a friend who found himself on the ground floor at Google right when their search business figured out their commercial model.
How did that work out?
I mean, he's done so well for himself. He was just kind of just a good guy, and he landed in the right place, and
Yeah.
he said I would call him up and he would say, I get to work pretty late in the morning. I look at kind of how my customers are doing and how much they're spending, and I'm out of there by 3, and I've doubled what I was supposed to hit for the month.
Yeah.
So
100%.
they was pretty happy. But I do feel like when I talk to folks today about growth and revenue this year, it's been a strange year because companies are doing well, but it's hard. It's harder. Like it's
Yeah.
just in general, people are working harder. There's a little bit more pain and suffering that they got to go through. They got to work on those kind of softer skills that you're talking about,
Yeah.
like that customer management, the support, etc. And it'll be interesting to see how this evolves going forward. But talking about going forward, here we are at the tail end of 2023. We're looking into 2024 now. What's on the horizon for you and the team?
Yeah, I think there will be normalcy soon. Like when you have big macro things going on, like it just kind of changes business. And like no one could have predicted COVID. And I don't think anyone would have predicted what came of COVID, like just the government's involvement with, well, many things, but mainly to do with, providing a lot of capital into our economy and then subsequently having to tighten that up. Like businesses are having to evolve with that. So I do think there'll be normalcy in the course of business. And I think with that will come innovation, quite frankly.
Right.
I think innovation's kind of taken a back seat in the last year or two, unless you're one of the big ones that just, has the war chest and the ability to really take advantage of this time, whether through
Yeah.
acquisition or innovation. But I think innovation will come to the forefront. And then I think there's just themes for disruption
Yeah.
that'll parallel that innovation. Like AI kind of carried us through the first 9 months of the year. Like any talk of AI and the stock would run for the moon. I think that is real. I just think it needs to be harnessed in some ways. But themes like data, themes like machine learning, things like artificial intelligence are super relevant and they're not going anywhere. And I think RingCentral will find its place in that, already is. I think back to how we serve our employees and how we serve our customers, it's just ripe for improving that experience. And
Yeah.
there's a lot of intelligence that can be interwoven into doing exactly that. So I'm really excited by that. And I
Yeah.
also think too, just because customers expect more, like quite frankly, they just expect more as the landscape changes. And for me as a sales leader, I look really forward to that opportunity to evolve how we serve our customers and to evolve how our teams serve our customers. There's just opportunity for growth. There's opportunity to improve how it is we go about representing the company and representing the products that we support. So we will evolve alongside the market.
Yeah, and I can see it. And a lot of people talk about AI as kind of like an ingredient technology, and you really
Yeah.
need the data from a system that's already in place to make it work and for it to learn and for it to get better. And I think that's accurate. And certainly, I think for a company like RingCentral, as you employ that generative technology in what you're doing, certainly there'll be more and more efficiencies for
Yeah.
companies going forward and great benefit.
It's not even generative AI. It's simply, it can be, certainly, but
Right.
like conversational AI, just like how do you ensure that individuals who engage with your customers are engaging as best they absolutely can? Simple things like call coaching, simple things like keywords, simple things like value propositions that you are relaying on to customers in support of certain technologies you're trying to bring to market. Like these are all ways to improve engagement of customers and to improve efficiency of employees within organizations. So like AI use cases, I just think sometimes become so complex. Like people are just like, wow, like how does it even apply to my business? Well,
Yeah.
there's simple ways it can apply. There's very logical ways it can apply that I think are quite applicable across all business types.
Jonathan, if there are folks out there that want to learn more about what you and the RingCentral team are doing, where's the best place to reach you?
I'm a pretty simple guy from the standpoint of how do you engage me? Um, LinkedIn is probably going to be the safest bet, and I am very accessible, I might add. I tend to respond to anyone that might reach out via LinkedIn or other means. So yeah, please, I would love to get to know my peers, expand the network, just talk about topics that we've discussed today. So yeah, absolutely, anytime.
Well, Jonathan, I'm a little envious. You know, you're in Colorado this at this time of year. We're all thinking about Colorado and the good life that you get to live in the wintertime out there. But it's been great talking with you about RingCentral. We've been speaking with Jonathan Leaf. He is the Senior Vice President of Small Business Sales at RingCentral, which is an organization helping small to medium-sized businesses improve their ability to streamline workflows, increase meeting efficiency, and other productivity benefits through global enterprise cloud communications, video meetings, collaboration, and contact centers. And It's a space that's going to continue to get more efficient, can continue to evolve, apply the latest moves that we see in the artificial intelligence space, but absolutely necessary. And as small to medium-sized businesses grow, they really need to be thinking about how to efficiently employ technologies. And this is one of the ones to really think about. So, Jonathan, thank you so much for being on the UNCAGED show, and we look forward to having you back.
Love being here. Thank you, Ben. Really appreciate the time.
Cheers.